What is good, puckheads, and welcome in on the second episode of Pens and Pucks. I'm your co-host Jordan. As always, I'm joined by my other co-host Nick, and tonight we got a few things we're going to go over. But first, if you're new here, hit that like button and subscribe. We want to thank y'all. We had over 200 views on our first episode, and it's only up from here, so it's a beautiful thing. Guys, if you want to follow Pens and Pucks, you can follow us on Instagram, Pens and Pucks, and then you can follow us on Twitter, Pens and Pucks as well, active on both. So make sure to hit the follow button on both of those social media outlets. Nick, how are you doing tonight?
Good, Jordan. What's going on?
Buddy, living off the cappy, bro. Living off the cappy.
Yes, that was an awesome game. Exciting.
Yeah,
Good
man.
finish. Good finish.
So let's hop right into it, man. Penguins Capitals post-game analysis. Let's just get right into it, brother. I know you got a whole bunch of notes. I got some notes too. The floor is yours to start, my friend.
Well, I would definitely say tonight we came out a little harder than the other night. We seemed to be playing on our toes, not our heels. Our forecheck was really, really strong. A lot of shots on net, and like we discussed off air, getting pucks on net was key to tonight's game, with the Caps goalie being sort of weak with controlling his rebounds. We've seen that the last couple games, but definitely a good start to the game.
I got to ask you, bro, is this the most shots Letang's ever hit the net on in a game?
Well, is he hitting a barn or is he hitting a net? So, well, the result was on Saturday night's game against the Islanders, 3 defensemen scored, and Letang with those two goals from the point. That's what happens when you get pucks on net. Good things happen, rebounds happen, second chances happen, and we saw that tonight with a couple of the Penguins' goals.
I gotta ask you, you brought up Saturday, and then you see tonight. Are you liking the benefits that are being reaped from these defensemen being activated, but also doing good things when they're activated and not having as many brain farts?
I do like when the D do get activated, but when they're moving their feet. If you looked at Matheson a couple of times, and it was mentioned on the broadcast behind our net where the Penguins goal, he was flat-footed. We got caught, puck didn't get out, and we got into trouble, and they had zone time and led to a couple of good opportunities. So I think definitely having the D active is a good thing, as long as you have that third forward looking at that D, making sure that you're covering up.
Yeah. I know we're talking about it off air a little bit, but were you as impressed as I was before that Gino goal went in? I mean, we were living off deflections tonight a little bit, but he was doing a little work in the dirty area on the power play. I mean, I said to you before we went live here, I mean, who was that guy? You know what I mean? Was that 71 or the old 72 at work there, bro?
Yeah, for sure. He definitely dipped his toes into the deep end of the water a couple of times. Going back to Saturday very quickly, when Sid's 1,000 game, and they had that ceremony, and Christopher Letang and Malcolm were involved in that ceremony heavily. I think there was a couple messages there. Number one is that their friendship really means a lot to each other. And I know that you're going to go off on me for saying that, but, all that friendly love. But I think there was a couple of things. I think that, with Burke and Hextall, the new regime, we talked about it on Saturday with our other episode. But I think with them being in-house now, I think there's a little bit of, I would say, both players are scared right now. I think
there's a little urgency.
Right. They're trying to prove to the new regime that they want to stay. They're a fit for the team. And even with Sid, I think maybe Sid was sending a message to Berkey and Hextall. I don't want these guys to leave. We already lost Flower, and, these are two of my good buddies. But again, like being sentimental and all that stuff, it's about this logo right here. Yeah. On this side here, it's not about the back of the jersey, right? So
yeah, I mean, if you want to make friends along the way, hey, all the power to you. But we're in the business of winning, not friendships. And me and you have been pretty adamant for years now about killing that clubhouse mentality. I mean, it's cool that everyone gets along, everyone's on the same page, but once they get the thing in any sport, comfort is never a good thing. because you get settled in, you get complacent. You know what I mean? You in a certain way, you always want to find a way to motivate guys and keep their feet to the fire. And we've basically done that through coaching changes, even though some of them have been a little late. And what's crazy is, someone we haven't really talked about in terms of players or people that are safe is Mike Sullivan. Is he going to be safe if we underachieve again? I mean, that's a legitimate question for, I guess, a different day. Let's stick to the. I mean, give your quick thoughts on that, because that's a topic for that's a whole topic for the show.
That's definitely a topic, and we discussed that before. I think he's safe this year. Let's just leave it at that, and we can get into that. One of the keys for me tonight, going into this game, was possession, puck possession. When I coach teams, I always really thrive on puck possession, playing below the dots, below the goal line, outworking the other team's D, and hopefully you can get a quick change on the fly, bring in a whole set of new forwards, and keep that cycle going, keeping that puck possession. What leads to puck possession, and what they did a really good job tonight was, and the last two Capitals games, is the face-off percentage. When you win your face-offs, you have possession. So tonight, final possession for face-offs or percentages, Pittsburgh finished with 56%, and the Caps were at 44%. So back to the last two games with the Caps, we had much more. Well, we had a lot of face-off wins, and again tonight. So that was key, very, very critical to the game.
Yep, and another key was, both teams had 2 power plays, but we happened to convert on one. They didn't. I want to get your thoughts on Tristan Jarry tonight. It's nice to see him have a save percentage of over 900. Vanacek, even though you were right, he had issues handling the puck. He's still, 37 shots against, and 34 of those were stopped. What was your thoughts on Jarry's performance tonight?
I thought it was, to say the least, I think it'd be an average performance. I think both goals he should have had. The first goal with panic, he should have poke-checked the player coming in. He saw that Matheson lost body position or angled him, and he sat back into his crease. Many of the writers out there are saying when he's on top of his game, he's playing on top of the crease. He's reading that play. One thing that's frustrating with the poke-check and with Jarry is that he has such an aggressive stick. He's such a great puck handler, but his poke-check is not consistent. You go back to Marc-Andre Fleury, that's one of his tools. Always poke-checking, always reading those forwards' eyes when they're coming in on that one-on-one play with the defense.
And he's a great puck handler behind the net, wherever.
Right. So, I thought the goals were weak. The Sherry goal, again, he was coming across. He wasn't big
fast enough. Yeah.
He wasn't big on the goal, right? The glove was there, went underneath. Overall,
he was a little deep in the crease on that one, wasn't he? He wasn't at the top of it, right? Yeah.
I think if I were to rate him tonight, I'd say it was C+.
That's exactly what popped into my head when you said that rating. And I know Kasperi Kapanen had the winning goal in the end of it, but my God, Jake Guentzel was my first star of the game. I mean, 6 shots on goal, that deflection that was Sidney Crosby outer-worldly tonight. And, he had the assist. He had one of the assists on the Malkin goal. I mean, can you just talk a little bit about not only Jake Guentzel's performance tonight, but overall about this guy? Because, I still think he's one of the most underrated secrets and players in the NHL right now. What are your thoughts on Jake and Jake?
A couple of things really come to mind. Number one is his hockey IQ. To play with Sid, you have to have, top hockey IQ, and he definitely has it. He finds open ice. He finds the white ice. He can cycle the puck well. He gets the puck to Sid, and he moves in areas that he can get the puck back. In terms of, he has something that we call in the hockey world deceptive speed. He's not the fastest guy, but he can still beat you one-on-one with his speed. He can cut to the outside, cut to the inside. He plays with a long stick. That's one thing that a lot of the forwards right now in the NHL, especially the wingers, play with a long stick. And if you notice Jake's stick, it's long. And the reason why it's long, he can get in there first on the forecheck, poke that puck, not have to use his body all the time, get that puck to Sid, get it to the D, start cycling that puck. But number one thing with Jake would be his his hockey IQ is outstanding.
Yeah, I agree with that. Totally. Chara got laid out pretty nicely by
Right,
Lafferty tonight.
right.
Can you give your assessment on what you saw and the result you had in mind when you saw it happen with the Zucker hit?
Well, number one would be is that a shout out to Lafferty today. I think you know what he used his speed. He got in there. He led the team with 4 hits for the night, and some of those hits were pretty hard. And we noticed that last game as well. And this is where Lafferty has to understand that he has a role on this team, and to be in the lineup consistently, that's what you need from him. We're not expecting them to score. We're expecting them to keep that puck in deep, be heavy on the puck, lay out the D, cause some havoc. Again, keep the puck inside their zone.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of retaliation, again, you know what? The Zucker hit was sort of unnoticed. It wasn't really, the replays really showed it somewhat. Zucker got he got his knee caught up under his leg, went into the boards awkwardly. To me, it could be some type of knee injury. That's what it looks like.
Yeah. Speaking of legs, what did you think about Schultz sticking his leg out? Crosby trying to jump over it. It was a little bit of a dangerous play, but he was more flat-footed than I thought, than intentionally dirty. I don't know why, he was sitting there in the box, with this shocked look on his face of why did I get that call? What did you think about that play? Did you deem it dangerous but not dirty, or did you deem it both?
Well, first of all, Schultze probably thought he was going to Mars with that bubble cage that he had on tonight, right? So,
oh my God,
right. That is, he had that look like he did.
What is he in junior, bro?
Yeah. When he played for the Pens, he had that look. Oh, that guy just skated by me, in the box. So, I thought that was sort of a leg stick out, really not a knee. The one thing I noticed about Sid tonight and I don't like criticizing Sid at all, but he was standing still a lot tonight. I don't know if you saw that, Jordan.
Yeah, I did.
He wasn't active a lot. Even on the cycle, he was standing still. I just think
got a couple turnovers in the offensive zone too. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Some no look passes. There's something, again, I don't think Sid's really on top of his game. He's playing decent, but he's still not at that level that we know Sid can play at.
Yeah. Would you say Schultz had the Brandon Tanev saw a ghost look in the box?
Oh yeah, for sure. Right.
I wanted to ask you something. I know we already talked about the Sheary goal a little bit, but do you think, when you look at, I really think we were giving up way too much space on that goal. You know what I mean? What were your thoughts on that goal? Because I mean, and I don't always back this guy. Letang was hung out a little to dry on that one.
Yeah. But again, it's all about that, having that, third guy back. On the telecast, they talked about playing a 1-2-2 type of system that first period. And really, this is where it comes down to that system that Sullivan plays. And tonight, the Penguins played perfect the first period. When they started that second period, again, they sort of were forechecking. They were playing that 1-2-2 aggressive, even a 2-3. And, like you said, Letang sort of got hung out to dry there. With the first goal of the night, Panik's goal, Malkin, his sort of back check, angling out Vanek, and then Matheson lost his man. But Gino's back check was a little bit suspect on that first.
I was going to say, if you want to call that a back check.
Right, exactly. Right. So, I think overall, I liked what the Penguins brought to the table tonight. If you're looking at the Caps, I'm not scared of them. And the first thing you talk about is goaltending. I think they're slow on the back end. I don't think they have that offensive power. Like Kuznetsov, I didn't even see him tonight. Didn't even play. Right. Yeah. Ovi was quiet again tonight against us, which is great. How many times did you hear his name? You didn't hear anything.
No, just when he came out of the box after the Gino goal.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And those two calls in the beginning too, Matheson getting the goalie interference and then Ovechkin, those were cheesy calls. Those are crap. I can see why both those players were shaking their heads going into the box.
Yeah. I know we're going to talk about the fourth line a little bit, but this kind of
Yeah.
ties into it. Um, that second power play unit just has no juice, man. It's almost like if the first unit doesn't convert, we're done. I
Right.
mean, they were okay at cycling a little, you know what I mean? And they got the
Mhm.
chance at the end where Zucker got the quick whistle when the puck was clearly loose on Vanacek's right pad. What are your thoughts of the second power play? And I know whose name you're gonna bring up first.
Well, you know
Jaws,
what?
baby.
Listen, I was at a minor hockey practice on Sunday, and I think Jankowski was out there running the power play for those guys, because as soon as you see 14 on the ice, centering our second power play unit, pack it in, give the Caps the puck, and say, you know what, run the time off the power play. Let's move on from that. Definitely, we need to. And again, this goes back to something you and I have talked about in our car rides to Pittsburgh, in our discussions, in our arguments. Why not put Gino on the second line at center? I know it's an ego thing. He's not, he's going to be, I'm on the second line. But just imagine the fact that you can have Sid and Gino on both power plays, split it up. The one thing I would say is that if you don't want to split those two guys up, why not play Sid the full 2 minutes? I don't understand why we don't do that. Even if you play Sid on the wing on the second unit, I think you can play the full 2 minutes. You're not active the full 2 minutes. You're gaining the zone. Most of the time, you're in a stationary position. You're not burning out. But that's something that Sully's never done. But you see the other all-stars out there, Patty Kane, Austin Matthews. A lot of guys are playing these full 2 minutes. But the second power play unit definitely for sure is something that needs to be corrected, because if the first unit's only staying on a minute, then that last minute of the power play is wasted.
Yeah, especially if Letang's out there for basically, half of the
Right.
overtime.
Right.
And let's talk about that for a sec.
Yeah.
Um, we talked about it before when we were off the air.
Mhm.
Russ finally got it in. I know you called it regrouping, but
Yeah.
how many times does Gino got to circle the neutral zone before he says, "Okay, I'm going to try taking the puck in"?
Yeah. I think, you know what, maybe they're practicing their crossovers, their edge work when they're doing that, right? But the one thing I'll give them credit for is something that I see different in overtime with the Penguins this year. It's puck possession instead of the run and gun style. You've seen this over the years where they're trading chances with teams. And normally, last year, the year before, we were on the short end of the stick.
Yeah.
Okay. This year, our overtime record is good. It's not too bad, right? So I think, like you said, there's frustration. You're like, what are you doing? What are you doing? As long as we don't lose that puck possession and you're regrouping, maybe you're going for a line change. I definitely think it's a better method of winning that overtime period instead of going that run and gun.
Yeah. So I gave Guentzel the number one star. Who would be your number one star for tonight?
I would say, you know what? I think I'd go with Kapanen. I think, being benched in the third period of that Islanders game, he definitely moved his feet. He got in on the forecheck. He used his speed. He made a couple nice short passes in the offensive zone. And then he buries the game winner. Good on him, because you know what? Some guys usually put their tails between their legs and suck out because they got benched or whatnot. But he went on. Sully put him back on the first line. He went at it, and good for him.
And you know what? Bluger made the pass on that play. And here's the
Right.
thing. If Teddy instead of passing it to Letang in the second on that, they basically had almost a 3-on-1 with the trailer. Instead of force feeding Letang and he took that shot, we might not even have seen overtime tonight. So
Right.
at least Teddy got a chance to make up for it, and we buried it and ended it.
Yeah,
All
I just
right.
want to touch on one thing before we move on to the next topic here is our special teams. So, and you touched on this, a few minutes ago, is number one is I definitely think our PK has really, really improved. Tanev and Bluger are doing an outstanding job as
the captain.
Even the second unit. And, you look at going into today's game, our power play was ranked 25th in the league and our PK was 26th. It's going to go up tonight because we're 1 for 2 and we're 0 for 2 on the PK. So great job on them. The only difference I see from the last first 10 games with our PK is we're not forcing the issue. Okay, we're staying more stationary, sticks in the lane, stopping those cross ice passes. As before with Sully's system is if the puck's in the far corner, let's say in the right corner, we would almost have both D pressuring that forward, pinning him against the boards, and then that third forward or the forward in the box would come down low and help those 2D. You basically have three guys in the corner on the puck, and the box gets all messed up. Right now, they're staying stationary, so sticks are in the lane. Those cross ice passes are not happening. They're blocking shots. They're getting the pucks out. And definitely, we say this all the time. If your special teams are in the top 10 going into the playoffs, you'll go for a long run and you'll make the playoffs. If they're out of the top 10, you'll have a difficult time.
Yep. All right. So, as we move on here, let's get into the fourth line woes. We already talked about old Lafferty. We talked about Jaws. And we don't. Do we even need to talk about Colton? So you know what I mean? Do we even? He's lucky I even mentioned his first name. I gave him more clout than he'll ever get in his life.
Listen, don't even mention his name. His name is Spectator because that's what he does. He gets on the ice. He skates around. He enjoys wearing a Penguin jersey. He gets off. He gets the tablet. Looks at his shift of 30 seconds. Talks to the guys on the bench. He's a cheerleader. That a boy, Colton. We need that, right? $1.2 million cheerleading. Right?
You're killing me here. And what's crazy is our fourth line guy ends up being our second power play unit. Like, oh my God, let's get out of here. Okay. So when you talk about the fourth line woes of the Pittsburgh Penguins, Nick, where do we even start?
Well, like I said before we got on tonight, the third line of Blueger, Tanev, and Zach Anton Reese, that is a fourth line. That should be our fourth line. They have some speed. Czar uses his body. So does Tanev. So does Blueger. Blueger is definitely, I think he has potential to be a third line center. But with that particular line, I really like the way they gel. But I think that needs to be a fourth line with Czar and Tanev and Blueger. But we can't do that right now. We have to look at the fourth line. I went over a bunch of guys yesterday, a bunch of players in the NHL, and I came up with a few of them that maybe we have to look at. Interesting notes from that fourth line going into tonight. What would be your guess, Jordan, on what do you think their plus minus is? And we're talking about Jankowski, the Spectator, Rodriguez, Lafferty, O'Connor. What do you think their combined plus minus is? And this is the fourth line. Remember, these are guys that we depend on to keep the puck out of our zone, create havoc in the offensive zone, really not be noticed, just do their job.
If not even looking it up, minus 22.
Okay. Well, we'd be in bigger trouble if it was that high. But
I was gonna say minus 16, but I had to go on the high. Right,
it's around there, so it's negative. It's minus 13. Okay, and that just tells the whole story of what's going on with our fourth line. Like I said, their job is to grind it out, get the pucks out of our zone, hem the D in their zone, make sure that they're not scored on, go on for 30, 45 seconds top, and go back on the bench. With us right now, that's not happening. Lafferty, the last two games, definitely looking better. I don't think Jankowski's a player that we can depend on to be a fourth line guy. His speed is suspect. He really hasn't done much since the first two games of the year. Rodriguez, again, skilled player, but that's not what you need back there on that fourth line. You need a heavy line, a line that's going to go in, crash and bang, rattle the glass, get in the dirty zones, get some shots on net from the point, maybe a rebound or so, maybe get a goal at the odd time. If you go back to the Stanley Cup years, Matty Cullen was centering that fourth line with a couple other guys going in and out to create some havoc, some offense, but definitely more puck possession. Stay on the plus side, not the minus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, okay. So,
Mm-hmm.
minus 13,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
What's crazy though is because I did actually look this up today.
Yeah.
Malkin coming in tonight was a -6,
Mm-hmm.
and Zucker was a -5.
Right.
They are the two worst plus minus players on our team.
So you can add on to that because Zucker was -2 and Malkin was -2 tonight.
So there you go, -8, -7.
Yeah.
They basically tied the -13. Should Penguins fans be worried?
Yeah, definitely. It just comes to, playing the right way, not doing turnovers or trying something fancy at the offensive blue line, making sure that you're getting the puck out in the Penguin zone. I tend to say art because I'm a Penguins fan, but
Of course.
yeah, of course. But getting the puck out of the Penguin zone, making sure that there's safe plays. Going back to Saturday night, Gino was doing some dancing in our zone that was pretty crazy, and it could have cost us. But it is worrisome because if your second line per se, if we want to call them the second line, is a minus, that means that they're not scoring either. So
And pretty bad because this is what stood out to me the most.
right.
When Gino's at -6, but Kapanen's sitting there +8.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
we're not going to sit here and argue who's the more skilled player. We know Gino has it in him.
Right.
So you mentioned names.
Yeah.
So fourth line fixes for the Penguins, either on guys on short-term contracts or about to be UFAs.
Right.
What were some names that popped out to you? Because essentially, I mean, there's no way we're going to get 3 players, but if you wanted to shake and move, you could go land 3 players and you could play with the third and fourth, and you could have some of those guys you want on the fourth get bumped down if you get the right guys. But who are some of the names that popped out? Because we all know you're not, we all know you're not, you're not talking about the Barzels and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. We're not looking at guys making, big dollars here. We're looking at guys that are making maybe a little over $1 million, $1.2 million, $1.5 million max. So one name that comes to mind, and, maybe not a lot of Penguins fans follow this guy, but you'll remember him from the 2017 Cup is Austin Watson. Right now, he's currently with the Ottawa Senators
from Nashville against us, right?
Right. Yeah. He plays.
You remember when we were walking down the street and someone had a Watson jersey on? We're like, who's this jabroni that spent money on that thing?
Yeah, exactly.
God,
right. So you get all those guys that have the no-namers back there, right? But Austin Watson, a big body, young guy, 26, 27, definitely likes to grind it out. Big hits. Currently, right now, he's 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points. He is a -9 or -9, but playing on the Senators, who isn't a minus right now because they're in the rebuild stage, right? He's got two years left on his contract, and he's at $1.5 million. The trading chip that we have as a Penguins organization will be Jared McCann. Okay, where does he fit in this lineup? Is he a third line? Is he a fourth line? He's not a fourth line because he wants to be fancy dancy, right? So is he a third line guy? Maybe, yeah. He's played center for us. No, he's not really responsible in the Penguins' own zone. But that's a guy that you could dangle out there. He's making over $2 million. Maybe clears cap space, bring in Austin Watson, and he can play either the right side or left side. In terms of the reason why I like him is you need somebody to beef up against Tom Wilson.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sure he'll drop his gloves with him and go at it with him. You got to plan for the playoffs. And if we hit that 4 spot, I think we'll be playing the Bruins. And they'll play a nasty game in the playoffs. We can't be soft. We need to have that one line that's sort of going to be, you know what, if you hit Sid, you hit Gino, you hit Jake, we're coming after you. We're going to hit Marchand and Bergeron, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, Austin Watson's on my list.
I gotta ask you. Because I know he's 32, but he's not making much money. Yeah. And you bring up Tom Wilson, and he could bring the physicality, and now you could justify putting him on third, fourth. Would you be interested in a guy like Wayne Simmons?
I was hoping that Pittsburgh might have taken a run with him in the off season. Okay, I like what he brings. And this year now he's hurt for the Leafs, but this year his foot speed's gotten a lot better. He's bringing some gump to the team. And he's got some leadership. For sure. Wayne Simmons is somebody, but I think the Leafs won't give him up. They finally got a player that Leafs are sort of a soft team as well. And
but he's on a 1 year, right? You could get him in the offseason, right?
But those players there are sort of like your last signings that you want to look at. Those players are always out there, and then especially during the season, you look at the bottom feeder teams, and that's what I did. I looked at the bottom feeder teams. I looked at Ottawa. Nashville looks like it's going to be a fire sale this year because they're trending low. And a guy from Nashville I look at is good old Rocco Grimaldi. Yes, right. 3 goals, 1 assist for Rocco.
He just likes saying the name, bro.
I love that name. I want that jersey. I want to get the jersey, right? I can see, drinking a Steel City beer with that Rocco jersey. Yeah, that would be fantastic, right? But looking at Rocco's numbers, again, 3 goals, 1 assist. He's making $2 million, so it's a little steep. He's got 1 year left on his contract, but he's a guy that will go in there. He will get to the pucks first, move his feet, hit some bodies. That's what you need on that fourth line. Another player that I looked at, again, the famous name that's been out with the Penguins the last couple of years is Eric Haula. And the reason why I say Haula, it's not for him to be that big bad bruiser type of player. His face-off percentage is fantastic. He's been over 50% over the last 7 years. And if you go back to Matty Cullen, right? Good old dad on the Pens.
Yep.
Win the face-offs, baby. Puck possession, right?
Yeah.
So
he's under 2 million too, right? He's like 1.7. Right. Yeah.
1.7 million. Another guy that is hurt though, that's out there with Nashville is Brad Richardson.
I have him on my little list too.
Yeah. Another good player, UFA at the end of the year, $1 million. So you know what? You bring him in for a run. He is hurt, but he's got 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points, and he's a +2 on a team that, like I said, a lot of guys are minus right now. Another guy we look at is Cody Eakin from the Buffalo Sabres. He makes a little bit more money, 2.2. Energy guy, another face-off guy, over 50% over the last 6 years. Smaller in stature, but plays big. Not afraid to get his nose dirty. Again, when I'm looking at the centers for that fourth line, face-offs are critical here. You want the wings bigger, crash and grind, but that center definitely needs to be responsible in our own zone and definitely be a face-off percentage guy.
I got to ask you, brother.
Yeah.
He's 33, but he doesn't make much money. And depending on his chemistry and if he can revitalize himself a little bit, would you entertain Bobby Ryan at all?
Yeah, he's a guy that came top of mind for sure. He's having a pretty good year this year in Detroit. He's playing well, but is he a type of player that we want? Maybe, like I said, maybe you inject him in the third line.
And you bump someone down that you want from the third to fit on the fourth. That's why I suggested that. Right,
and with Berkey, who knows? He is a UFA at the end of the year. What's he making? $1 million?
Yeah, like 1.7, I think 1.75 or something.
Right. So he's good cap, big body, goes hard to the net, playing well for Detroit. I've watched a number of games, and he's using his body down low, bringing pucks to the net, playing smart. For sure, that's a guy that you could plug into the third line.
So you're talking about centers here. He's a guy who's on my list. He's had a couple seasons, just last year in LA, he had a 66.6 face-off percentage. What would you think about entertaining a guy like Kyle Clifford who could come on the cheap too?
Yeah, I like him, but we got a taste of what he can do and with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and they obviously thought that he didn't bring what they hoped for a third or fourth line. He is a grinder. He's definitely a fourth line player that'll get
at best.
Okay. but again, I like the Bobby Ryan suggestion with, you move a guy like Czar down to the fourth line or Tanev. See, the problem you notice right now with a player like Tanev is he's being a little too fancy. Okay, he wants to be that goal scorer, and he does have some offensive instincts or whatnot. But he's a guy that needs to chip the puck in, lay the body out, crash the net, get pucks to the point, go to the dirty areas. No toe drags, no trying to get between the legs, right? And if you notice, he's starting to do that. Okay, because he's got a taste. When he scores, it's like JC's in the house, right? So he's got to just stick to his game. But Clifford would be another, again, depending on what he's making right now. I would definitely
it doesn't make much.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, me and you have kind of been silently banging the table, and I know this isn't a third it might be a third liner. Yeah. Man, I wish we just would have got Anthony Duclair on the cheap and see what we got. Like, every time I see this guy jump to a new team, I'm like, why don't we just spend that little money and bring a guy because I think that's a guy that, if he got a chance with Sid could elevate his game.
Yeah, and he's scoring on Florida again as well, right? He's
such a he's been a minimal investment for so many years. I don't understand why we haven't tried to lock that guy in, man.
Yeah, my question for you though, Jordan, is why the change of jerseys every year? It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah,
it doesn't. Like, he's such a good hockey player. Okay, he's offensively gifted. He's got a good shot. He's got the legs. He's got speed. He produces. He produces numbers. But why the change of jersey? Again, we're not in the dressing room. We don't know what goes on. But I just don't get it. I don't get why he changes from team to team. It's a mystery to me.
Yeah, and obviously it's a little bit of a red flag for you too, right?
Right. That's definitely what I look at. Another guy that, if Penguin fans don't know of, and maybe you're watching Marc-Andre Fleury, rocket in Vegas, and he's making us look like a bunch of clowns for letting him go. Well, Matt Murray's going to be retired from hockey in a couple of years, right?
Yeah.
Working at the local 7-Eleven there in Ottawa. Is Thomas Nosek of the Las Vegas Knights.
Golden Knights,
yeah, Golden Knights. He's a UFA at the end of the year.
He only makes like 1.25 too.
Right. His numbers are not that sound this year, but he's a big body. He's got really offensive skill. He's a guy that you could probably put on the third line as a centerman if you want to bump Blueger down, so you keep that Czar, Tanev, and Blueger line together, right? Again, you could go with like a Nosek, Bobby Ryan, and if you picked up another player, you could definitely change the shift here. And I think this is what Berkey has to do in Hextall. Pittsburgh looks like they're coming on. They're getting their legs back. Gino showed some flashes of brilliance tonight with his dipsy doodles. I still get nervous when he's trying to carry that puck out of the Penguin zone, because he's trying to put pucks underneath sticks and not just being, getting the simple pass out. Another guy would be, and Penguin fans know this guy. I know, Jordan, you're probably going to shake your head.
Don't you dare say Brassard or Galchenyuk right now.
No, I'm not going to. No way. Hey, listen, I haven't dipped into the sauce yet, okay? All right? Okay. Is Carteroni, or Carteroni, if you want to say. He's on Anaheim, big body. He's got 6 assists already this year. He's a UFA at the end of the year. He's 1.33. He knows the Sully system, so it won't have to be, a big change for him to come in. He knows exactly what Sully wants from him. That's another, what I'm looking for is somebody that, that fourth line, to come in. If you're going to make adjustments to that fourth line, if you're going to leave Blueger's line as the third, some bigger bodies to crash and bang. Another guy that I really like, that I don't think that they'll trade, but he is an RFA, is Brandon Lemieux from the New York Rangers. I think that guy is fantastic with the role he plays. He knows exactly what he has to do. He agitates people all the time on the ice. He's like a rat. He's got that Marchand look to him. He always does that to Pittsburgh when we play them this year. He's in their face. You're getting glove washes all the time. I really like him as a player. So that he's another guy that, maybe if you're looking at trading, let's say we're really, really, full of D right now. Where does Dumo go when he comes back? The one thing that I'm getting nervous with is Sully right now with POJ. If we want to get back to tonight's game, and I don't know if a lot of Penguins fans noticed this, but for the last 8 or 9 minutes, they were going with 4D.
Yeah.
Okay. Letang wasn't on the bench. Not sure what happened there. Nobody on the broadcast noticed that. But he was off the bench. There was an empty space there, and POJ was just sitting on the bench. So they weren't even rotating 5. Okay. But the minutes that POJ is playing, let's check that out tonight if we can get that up there on our screens here. You have that up, Jordan?
Let me look right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So POJ had
Yeah, I got it here. POJ had 1447 of minutes. Okay. Letang had 21. You had Pettersson at 19. You had Marino at 22. Matheson at 20, and Cody Eakin 20. And I want to talk about Cody Eakin for just 1 second here. Okay. When he started off the first few games, he looked horrible. But I have to say, I'm not a big Eakin fan, but I'm loving the way he's playing right now. He's playing a safe style of hockey. And I've always said this to my D when I coach is if I don't notice you, you're doing a good job as a defenseman. Now, if you're an offensive defenseman on my teams and I notice you, that means you're doing a good job, right? But if you're a D and you're out there and you're just a stay-at-home D and you're playing simple and you're a 4, 5, 6 guy, and if I don't notice you, that's a pat on the back. You did a great job. And he's doing a fantastic job. No turnovers, safe, angling guys out, making smart plays out of the zone. So good job on Eakin, and Matheson again, a couple times tonight, standing still, not really doing what's expected of him. A little too much craziness passes coming out of our zone. But overall, decent night for Matheson.
What do you think about Marino logging the amount of minutes he did?
I liked his game tonight. He's coming around. He the first 10 games, he didn't look like himself. I'm not sure if he had to get his legs under him or maybe it was even the contract that he signed. Sometimes when you get some money in your pocket, you tend to get a little nervous out there, especially a young guy. Expectations go higher for you. Last year, nobody knew of this guy, right? I think sometimes last year was saying, go Dan Marino. And right. So, but it's John Marino. But I thought tonight he played really solid.
All right, so let's get into our next topic here, brother.
Yes.
Early Hart Trophy race leaders. Obviously Connor McDavid is leading the way right now. And Draisaitl is right behind him, as is Mitch Marner and Matthews. Kane's creeping up. If you had to, basically, do you think this is kind of turning into, do you think by the end of it, it's probably going to be a 3-man race as Matthews climbs up between him, Connor, and, Patrick Kane had a decently big night tonight too.
You said it. We're thinking alike here. Patty Kane is putting up numbers and leading his team. Yeah. You look at the Blackhawks; they won again tonight. It's a crazy stat though. Looking at some of these guys you just talked about, so definitely McDavid is in the running. He is number one. He is the best offensive player, and I will say offensive player in the league right now. He's putting up points at a crazy rate. Going into tonight, he's been in on 51% of the Oilers' goals. That's insane.
That's ridiculous.
That's insane numbers. Without him, Oilers are moving to Indianapolis. Right? If you look at Patty Kane, okay, right now he's second highest for percentage of goals for his team. He's at 47%. And tonight he had a 4-pointer, I believe. I'm not sure. Did he get a 5th point? But he was absolutely.
Yeah, no, he had he had a
Goal and three
goal,
assists. Goal and three
and
assists tonight.
yep, 3 assists. Yep.
Yeah. So, for me right now, pecking orders are McDavid, Patrick Kane. You put Matthews in that scenario, but
Yeah, because technically he's a point ahead of Matthews after tonight.
right. But there's also a couple of other guys that I would put in, this race. Mitch Marner.
You think, but here, the reason why I didn't include him is, do you think by the end of it he's going to be outscoring Austin? When you add in the fact that Austin right now, he's leading the goal race by 6.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, do you think by the end of it, I think by the end of it, Matthews is going to be in point wise outscoring Marner, just like dry settle, right?
Yeah, you're talking overall points, or he's going to.
Well, let's be honest. That's basically how the Hart Trophy gets determined by the end of it. We're all lying to ourselves that we didn't. I know Mark Scheifele is in the running. Right. Like you can't deny a guy like Mark Scheifele right now. He's creeping up. We talked about him last show. Jonathan Huberdeau's no slouch this season right now.
Yeah, he's at right now 39% of the goal scored with Florida.
Yeah, so and Backstrom, he's the leading point getter in Washington, not Ovechkin.
Right.
But I think Scheifele and Huberdeau right now have a better chance than Backstrom at vying for it in the end.
Right. And this is where the Hart Trophy, there's a few issues that bother me. Number one is that, they have the Rocket Richard for the top goal scorer. So you're winning that. For me, you're looking at who's the most valuable player to your team. If you're asking me who the most valuable player to their team tonight, as of today, it's Patrick Kane.
I agree.
I believe McDavid is the best offense player in the league, but there is Draisaitl. If McDavid's out of the lineup like he was last year, Draisaitl came in, right, took over the team, had a great year, and the Oilers didn't miss a beat, right? Patrick Kane, Jonathan Toews is hurt, okay, as well as Kane's a winger. Normally you don't see this. Normally you see the centermen take over games. Centers will be the guy, right? You have Austin Matthews. I have here too as well. Nathan McKinnon. He was hurt. I'm sure he's going to come back to his status of being a top player. He had a great outdoors game the other night. So right now, as of today, and I think it's Patrick Kane.
I gotta ask though, do you think McKinnon? He kind of, don't you think it's kind of safe to say he's falling too far behind? I mean, McDavid has, McKinnon's sitting at 18 points. McDavid's already at 37.
Right. Yeah. But again, Jordan,
I'm not doubting about the importance of him to his team. Yeah. But we all know this is a popularity contest. Right?
Yeah. So you're right. Like in terms of McKinnon even coming close to McDavid, it's over. Right. Yeah. But the big question that I have for you is, what if the Oilers don't make the playoffs? And that can happen because literally their defense is not that great. Their goaltending is suspect. Their goaltending is like a spicy sausage. You don't know if your stomach's gonna, feel
you don't awful. Know whether it's staying in or coming out.
Exactly, right? So it's not good. And so what if the Oilers, let's say McDavid puts up all these points and the Oilers don't make the playoffs? What happens? Does he still win the Hart? And then Patty Kane gets less points. Blackhawks make the playoffs. What happens?
Right? They're going to give the point popularity
contest. I know.
But you're right. Yeah. Kane should win in that situation.
Yeah, right.
But we've sat back and watched.
We've watched Sid lose out, and he's been the most valuable player to the team, right?
Yeah.
So it's definitely it's a tight race. But Jordan, you're absolutely right. If this is going to come down to most points, McDavid, I think, is going to win it. I think Matthews is on pace. He didn't score the other night, but Rocket Richard, definitely candidate. He's rocking it with all the goals that he's scoring. But
does it hurt you that Sid's no longer in these conversations anymore?
No, not at all. Because I think, I think when you're younger, you want those individual trophies. It's good for your trophy case, right? Mm-hmm. When you become an older player, you want to win Stanley Cups. So I think Sid's done with the Harts and, the Art Rosses and the Rockets. I think he wants more cups. That's it. He wants cups, gold medals. And he realizes that, he's up there in age now, and McDavid and all these younger guys are, playing at a rate and putting up points that he can't do that anymore.
Yeah. And I mean, not even going to mention Gino's name, right? Because those days are long, long gone. So I got to say, betting odds, who would be your number one guy?
For the Hart?
Yeah, if I gave you $1,000 and said take this to Vegas and put it down on a name, is it McDavid?
It's Connor McDavid, hands down. Yep. Yeah. If we're going about what we just talked about, Jordan, it's Connor McDavid. The kid's just so explosive. He's a presence every night. The game on, I think it was Saturday night, the first 5 goals, he was in on all of them. I think he got 3 goals and 2 assists that game. He was on fire.
That stat you threw out was crazy.
Right. Yeah. It's 51%. And, but again, looking at the Oilers, they're a 2-man team. Pariarvi is putting up some points. Good to see for him. He's playing with McDavid. Maybe he won't be a bust. And we'll have some shows coming up. We're going to be talking about the rookie race, the Calder and some other trophies races coming up. I think the Calder is going to be interesting. That's going to be a good episode to talk about, all the young players out there who's in the running for that.
Yeah, I mean, what was that? What was that Russian they drafted? That was the bust.
Yakupov.
Yeah, I was gonna say at least he's no Yakupov, right?
Yeah. It's funny thing that with Yakupov there is that who was his center in junior with the Sarnias thing? Trivia question.
I don't remember.
Kachenyak.
Oh, hey, and how do you work out?
Wow. I think he's got almost every jersey in the league right now there. Right?
Yeah, really. I didn't know that. That's a good little trivia question.
Yeah.
We're talking about, let's go around the NHL a little bit here.
Yeah, for sure.
Talking about that, I know they lost, but what a response by Patrick Laine after Torts has kind of been giving him the work in Columbus tonight, eh? Like he was lighting it up. What were your thoughts about Laine tonight?
Well, again, he's another player that, got benched last week, and I think it was a week ago. And, he's been on a tear since. I think he realizes that his reputation has taken a little bit of a hit. I really think that's why the Jets traded him. There's a lot of, back noise about him playing Fortnite till hours of the night. It'd be interesting to see when he takes his gloves off if he's got some blisters on those thumbs from the controllers, right? Definitely on fire, and then you have Dubois last night scoring the winner. So I do think though that, the 2-for-1, it might work out better for Columbus if both players stay, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But Laine did, he has shown that he's come to play the last number of games since being benched, for sure.
Yeah, agreed. All right, so where are you standing right now on our boy Matty Murray managed to win tonight with a .889 save percentage, squeaking out the Montreal Canadiens 5-4 victory in the shootout. What were your thoughts? Because we talked about it earlier. What were your thoughts on the Canadiens' performance against the Leafs on Saturday? And what was your takeaway that they lose to the lowly Senators tonight?
Right, but I believe this is their second loss to the Senators in over the last 7 days.
Yeah.
Listen, I love watching.
Carey didn't look that great tonight either, right?
Right. I love watching the Senators play. I think they got a lot of good youth, a lot of good talent. Looking at a lot of guys that are on the AHL, I like to look at players coming up. Batherson and Norris are one of those, or 2 players that were in Belleville last year, and definitely they're going to make an impact to any team and to the Senators. DJ Smith, I think he's a great coach. I think he's going to have those guys by next year being trying to battle for playoff position. This team reminds me a lot of when Sid first came in the year. In the first couple of years, we made it the second year. This could possibly happen. Stützle's a great talent. He's my guy for Rookie of the Year. So Penguin fans, whoever's watching, Put your money on Stützle. I think he's your guy. But again, Matt Murray, Jekyll and Hyde. One day he's good, one day he's not, right? So it all depends. He still gave up 4 goals, right?
The book's out on him. Like,
yeah.
What's crazy is, people need to realize, people obviously aren't in on the conversations me and you had, but we had the book out on him when we got larger sample sizes after the 2 cup runs. You know what I mean? It just worked out with him in the second year. As bad as it says, that injury worked in his favor because, it kept him away from, whatever sport you're in. The more you play, the more tape that's on you, so the more easier you are to evaluate and break down.
100%.
And just him coming in the first year the way he did out of nowhere, and then the second year getting hurt, there wasn't a ton of, tape to figure this kid out. Once the tape came out, the glove side got exposed. High got exposed on him.
Yeah.
He had a real issue with people handling the puck behind the net and coming around.
Rebound control was awful.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So, I know you said you joked around, you're being a little facetious about the 7-Eleven comment.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a real possibility that he might be out of the league in the next 3 to 4 years, is it not?
A number of reporters have said that. I heard the other day on a radio station that they predict that Matt Murray will be out of the NHL in 2 years. Bottom line.
Jesus.
Right. And these are guys that
talk about a fall from grace.
Right. But you just said it. You get the scouting report. You're a football guy too. On quarterbacks, you see their tendencies. With Matt Murray, he dropped his shoulder. He drops his shoulder. Everly lit him up. Donskoy it started happening in that 2016 series against San Jose in the Stanley Cup Finals. There started to show some weak spots there. It continued a little bit throughout the second year when we went on that playoff run. And then in 2018, when he got majority of the workload,
the wheels fell off.
They fell off hard, right? But there's one in terms of Montreal. Let's get back to them just for a couple minutes here. I said it on Saturday, is that with Montreal, the biggest factor is they have a lot of good players, but they don't have any elite players, top end talent, and no game breakers in my eyes. They'll have a lot of good players. And I think if you play a tough game against them, they can play a tough game, but if you play a harder game, and in terms of speed, they have, Suzuki and Gallagher, and, they brought into Foley, which he's not really, a fast skater or whatnot. But I think if you play a tougher, harder game against them and use your speed, you can definitely beat them. And that's why Toronto gave them, a hard time on Saturday night, because Toronto has speed. Their top 6 can move and get the pucks in deep and be first to pucks and get second chances. Interesting score tonight coming out of Jersey. You have Buffalo beating New Jersey 4-1.
Yeah, I was going to set you up with that on the sense of they have not won a game since Hirscher's been named the captain.
Right. But that being said, with Hirscher, that was his first game back on Saturday. He was,
but they're getting handled, is what I'm saying. Not like they're losing tight games here. You know what I mean?
But this is an organization again. They have Lindy Ruff back on the bench, old school type of guy. I'm not really sure if he was the type of fit for that team, because they're in that rebuilding process. Maybe they go with a younger guy. Again, things have changed in hockey. Benching guys, screaming at guys on the bench, calling guys out on the room. It's a lot different now. You sort of have to be a little bit more sensitive to these players. And I think, and again, the Sabres winning, and a lot of chatter out there is, if the Sabres do, become a bust again this year, is like Eichel's going to be wanting out of Buffalo, and what's that? Yeah, right.
I don't blame them. Not only you got to play for them, you got to live there.
Right. And the biggest news coming out of that game is Jeff Skinner making $9 million a year, second game as a healthy scratch.
Buddy, absolute armed robbery without the gat and the mask, bro.
Right.
And remember
Exactly.
back then we were talking about him, about potential, because there was rumblings about us, JR, potentially trying to move for him, remember? Because of his ties to Carolina.
Yeah.
Thank God we didn't make that. I got a question for you, though, sticking with the Devils.
Yeah.
If they keep going like this, is Subban going to want out? He's at a stage of his career where he ain't got time for this, bro.
Right.
I'm
If
not
he's
saying should be
yeah.
at him. I'm
No,
asking, should he be
I
wanting
I
out?
think if he's chasing for the cup, he'll ask to be traded. And also, you know what? It frees up some cap space, a lot of cap space for New Jersey to bring in different pieces, maybe. Um, Again, what does PK want? Does he want to settle in Jersey and make a life out of that, or is he chasing the cup? But I don't know. Like you're right. Like who wants to live down there?
It's like North Buffalo.
Yeah,
Or sorry, South
exactly.
Buffalo, my bad.
Right.
Yeah.
Chicken Wing Nation. But yeah. But again, with the Sabres, I think
They
with
got talent, eh? Like
they
Reinhardt, Ramasdalin, like
Taylor
Eichel, Taylor Hall.
like again, there's
Okaposo got paid
but
after he left the Islanders there. Like,
but
it's
look
not like
look
they're thin on talent.
but look what they're caught up with though. Okapozo's like making over $6 million.
Yeah, it's bad
What's
contracts.
yeah, he's on the fourth line, third line doing nothing, right?
You got a $1 to $2 million player making 3 times what he should be.
Right. And then you have, Kruger, you're bringing in a guy that coached in Europe or whatnot. They're going through coaches like Candy. When I think of Buffalo, it's just a disaster. Jason Botterill, the assistant GM of Pittsburgh, he only had 1 year there. They fired him. It just seems that it's all over the place. Stability is not there. Their own captain. If you have to always worry about your captain wanting a trade,
Yeah, it's not a good culture.
no. And why would Taylor Hall want to do an extension in Buffalo with what they're at right now? It just, there's a lot of things in Buffalo that just don't make sense right now.
Yeah. All right. So one game's live right now. We obviously haven't watched any of it. Vancouver is up on Edmonton 3-1 right now. They got off early, 3 straight goals, I believe it was.
Right.
But Nashville beat, battle of 2 not very good teams here.
Yeah.
Nashville managed to shut out the Detroit Red Wings tonight. Your thoughts on that?
Well, again, you're 2 subpar teams going at it. You don't know. Nashville does have the better roster, veteran guys, but I think a lot of those guys on Nashville right now are playing for their jobs. Are they going to be gone at the trade deadline? I looked at Detroit's roster yesterday because I was trying to maybe look at some guys that could fit on the fourth line. You brought up Bobby Ryan, but they're really decimated with some bad contracts there too. Some heavy contracts. I'm surprised where Detroit's going right now. I thought they'd be a little bit more ahead of where they're at. I think they need to make a coaching change. I think Blashaw's had enough time there, and he hasn't made any movement. You have Danny Bylsma there. That's the assistant coach. I think they need a change in coaching, and again, they need to get rid of some of their bad contracts.
Mm-hmm. And as we look at tomorrow night, you got the Leafs and the Calgary Flames.
Mm-hmm.
You got the Kings and the Blues. Obviously, the Florida Panthers are playing the Stars again. Jesus Christ. You got the Rangers and the Flyers. What games tomorrow would you recommend, Penguin fans, non-Penguins fans to be checking out?
1 second here.
Because obviously the Leafs and the Flames always, that's obviously it's a North matchup.
Well, for Penguin fans, you always want to keep an eye on our division. So you got the Rangers and Flyers. That's the Wednesday night, big hitter. Of course, always keeping an eye on our division. In terms of the Leafs, Flames, I'm not big on Calgary. They beat Leafs last night 3-0. Hutchinson was.
But Austin Matthews is fun to watch. That's the
right.
thing,
right. Yeah, exactly. If you want to watch high end tempo offense and watch the Leafs go, then definitely that's a good game to watch. But I'm a big fan of this team, and they're making some noise. I really like the Carolina Hurricanes this year. 12-4-1 against the Lightning, 11-4-1. Big game there. And then you have the Panthers in play, like you said. All 3 teams are battling for top spot in that division. So My game of the night, if you were to ask me, depending on what everybody can watch out there, would be Hurricanes and Lightning. It's a battle for top spot.
I'm such a fan of Sebastian Aho. That guy's such a stud, man.
Right, for
Such a
sure.
stud.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think the Blues, Kings, 2 versus 4 in the West, that'll be a pretty good game to
yeah,
watch.
for
And
sure.
that's a rivalry too, even with all these division shakeups, that's been a pretty long-standing rivalry, man.
Right, right.
All right, so before we get out of here, Nick, any final thoughts?
No, it was a great win tonight. It was a lot of noise in the house when Kapanen scored, and it was a happier time to get on and do this with you, Jordan, because if they would have lost, it would have been sour grapes. I'm in a better mood. Can sleep better tonight and can definitely open up a nice cold one after the show here and watch the highlights again about Cappy scoring. But
Yeah.
The interesting is, if you're a Penguins fan, what happened to Christopher Letang in the third period? Where did he go? What's the status on Jason Zucker? Is he is this going to be a long-term injury? And get ready for Thursday night and get our Penguins jerseys on and go hard for another win.
Yeah. All right. I'm just trying to see here if I can find a quick update on any info from Jason Zucker. Let me just give me a sec here. Let's see if I can find something. Okay. So, all right. So Josh Yohe does have something up on the Athletic right now concerning his injury. And then I'm just trying to see if I can find they're probably just saying go ahead.
I got an update here from DK Sports. Okay. They're reporting Sullivan has reported that Zucker is still being evaluated for a lower body injury at this time.
Yep, and the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, they are reporting that the Penguins may be without Justin Zucker for a while.
Okay. You also found out what happened to Christopher Letang in the third period. They were attending to an injury. Letang had an injury in the third period, so that's why he was missing in the last 10 minutes of the game.
And the word is Zucker could not put any weight on his left leg.
Right. Yeah, but again, guys have to step up, right?
Next man up mentality, baby.
Right. There's 2 players that I want to see get in the Penguins lineup just before we go is Josh Curry, and I want to see him get a chance in the lineup, and maybe a guy like is it Goudreau, I believe it is, from Nashville, that's with the taxi squad right now. Guys bringing some energy. Both guys have NHL games, and I'd like to see him. I think O'Connor, he's a young guy. I think he needs to play more minutes. I'd like to see him go to Wilkes-Barre and get more minutes and get used to playing against men. But definitely those 2 players I'd like to see maybe get a chance.
Yeah. All right, guys. So we'll be back on the weekend for a live podcast, looking like Saturday around 12 to 1 Eastern we'll be going. And then sometime this week, we're going to drop the first little film analysis video, breakdown a play from the Islanders-Penguins game on Saturday. So until then, we will see you next time, Puckhead.